So the second part of the notes, we're going to take those terms that we just wrote down and we're going to write brief explanations for them. So an atom is the smallest part of an element that still has the properties of that element. Smallest part of an element that still has the properties of that element. Now you might say, well, what about protons, neutrons, and electrons? Well, protons and neutrons and electrons are, once you take apart if you take off the electrons and you put them in a bowl, you can't tell where those electrons came from. You can't tell if they came from a gold atom or a sulfur atom or an iron atom, so they no longer have the individual properties of the element. What really makes the properties of the element is the combination of protons in something, and you'll study that next year when you're in your chemistry class. The next one we go to is the molecule, and when you have two or more atoms chemically combined or chemically bonded together, that's a molecule. Two or more atoms chemically combined. So combo, combine, and I just made it past tense, so chemically combined. And then we make that big, huge jump in size, and we jump up to an organelle. And an organelle is a specialized cellular part, specialized cell part, with a very specific function. Okay, and remember, this is a huge jump in size from a molecule to an organelle. And finally we get to the cell, and we can say it's the smallest part of a living thing, but let's be a little bit more specific here. As you go up in your science classes, you'll find those definitions can be a little bit more specific. So this is the smallest structural and functional unit of an organism. Smallest structural, so it's built of cells, and functional. Everything works on a cell level, functional unit of an organism. And I'm going to get tired of writing that word organism out, so I'm going to abbreviate that ORG. So in these notes, whenever you see ORG, that's going to just be organism here. The next part is a tissue, and if you have a group of cells, similar cells with the same function, then you have a tissue. So a tissue is made of similar cells with the same function. And then we can jump up to an organ. And in this case, again, everything is built on the one before. So if we have a group of tissues that are working together to perform a function, we have an organ. So this is a group of tissues that are working together to perform a function. Think about the organs that you know. Think of the heart. If you've ever looked at a heart, then you know it's got several different types of tissues in it. It's got muscle tissue, which is the main bulk of it, but then it's got this connective tissue that holds the flaps closed so the valves of the heart can open and close. It's got fatty tissue on it that's required to be there. So you have lots of different tissues, and they all work together to form that function of what the heart does here. And then finally we have a system, and when you have an organ system or a system, it's made of a group of organs that are working together to perform a specific function again, or multiple functions. Sometimes it has more than one job. So I'm going to put an S in parentheses, and I'm going to put this A in parentheses. So it could be performing multiple functions, things that that are going on here. Ooh, that made it too big, didn't it? Okay, so for example, if we look at the circulatory system, well, we have the heart, so we know that it's going to push blood around the body. Along with that, it's going to push food and oxygen that we take into our body. But it also has white blood cells, which help it to fight off disease. So the system might have more than one function in there. And the next one we have is an organism, and a really simple thing, and we can kind of get away from our thing that we've been doing here. Like, we could say it's a group of systems working together, but in reality we can just say an organism is a living thing. And it really doesn't need much more of a definition than that. Finally, we go beyond the organism, and we talk about a population. And a population is a group of organisms, there it is, orgs, of the same species in a specific area or in one area. So we can talk about all the population of humans in Borger. That's a population. We could talk about the population of dogs in Borger. We could talk about the population of fiddleback spiders in Borger. We could talk about a population. It's all one species. They can mate and have offspring and go from there. And then we jump up to a community, and that's what most things are dealing with. In a community, you talk about all of the different populations. So a community is a group of populations in an area. Okay, so again, don't give me a history or social studies definition. You need the science definition. Don't give me the definition of, well, it's all of the people in Borger and we're working together to make everybody happy and healthy and blah, 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 blah. No, no, no. We want the science definition. It's a group of populations. So it could be the populations of the humans and the dogs and the fiddleback spiders and whatever other organisms that you have inside there. That's a community. And all of these function to live together. They all have their each individual jobs in there. And then the next one up is an ecosystem. And this is where we change a little bit. An ecosystem is the community, so it's all the populations and all the living populations. It's the community plus the non-living environment. So now we're going to talk about the soil. We're going to talk about the air quality. We're going to talk about things like that. So that's in a non-living environment. We're going to talk about, what types of climate and weather do we have here. So that's the community plus the non-living environment. And then the last here that we have is the biosphere. And the biosphere refers to all of the ecosystems on the planet. It could be in the atmosphere. It could be in the lithosphere. Okay, so the atmosphere would be the air, right? We have a lot of organisms that live in the air. It could be the lithosphere, that's on the dirt where we're living. It could be the hydrosphere, all the water on the planet. But all of these things are talking about all of the ecosystems that are on our planet. And this is what we talk about when we discuss the levels of organization. We're going to go from smallest all the way down to the largest. So when we analyze these things, we see the pattern of smallest to largest. We also see the pattern of, hey, this one is made up of the stuff before it. This one is made up of the stuff, multiples of the stuff before it, and so on and so on.